So here's a strategy that has helped us tremendously grow by leveraging what we consider good debt. Now, don't take me for textbook definition of good debt here, but I want to talk through a strategy and a tactic that we use that allows us to free up more capital for ourselves by creating a payment plan back to ourselves in order to leverage essentially the bank's money to help us move forward in the direction that we want. And the way that we do this is as a business, we apply for 0% interest credit cards. So, a couple caveats here. We don't do this when we're out of cash, meaning this isn't a last resort, go get a 0% interest credit card and hope that we make that work. Let's say we get it for $15,000 and we're going to go spend it on advertising that we don't know will work. Like, that's not the time that we use this when we know that we have the funds in place, but we want to be able to keep reserves in the business and not have to tap into that and be able to leverage a tool like a 0% interest credit card. Now, a lot of these you can get for 12 to 18 months that are 0%. And then after the 12 to 18 months, obviously the interest rate kicks in and typically it's a higher rate than normal. But we know that over those 12 to 18 months, we come up with a plan of how we're going to pay that back on a payment plan from ourselves to be able to make sure that we're not going to pay any interest on top of the card, on top of the principal, and be able to leverage quote unquote other people's money to be able to access something or use a service that we know we're going to need. And while we have reserves in case something were to fall apart, that we could pay this off immediately if we need to. So, what's an example of this and how do we do this? So, for example, there was a business coaching mastermind program that we wanted to be a part of. It was quite expensive. And rather than dipping into our reserves, we knew that by going into this program, there were a couple services involved that we were 98% sure were going to help us move forward in our business. And this turned out to be correct. So we made a good decision. But what we did was say, hey, rather than dip into our reserves, we knew what we could afford monthly to pay that. We couldn't pay for it all up front with our reserves because it would put us in a terrible position. And so what we said was, well, what if rather than we take all this out of reserves to pay for it up front, what if we actually get a 0% interest credit card, be able to pay for it, and then we know that it's 12 to 18 months of 0%, we can just create a monthly payment plan for ourselves so we can break this up to help our cash flow. Right. So, for example, let's just say, for example, this was $10,000. We didn't want to take $10,000 out of our reserves account to pay for this all at once. Instead, what we did was say, hey, because if we did that, it would cut into our cash flow and it ultimately hurt our reserves tremendously. And so we said, well, honestly, we could pay 800 or 1,000 bucks each month, and that doesn't hurt our cash flow. In fact, we're totally fine with that. It doesn't really do much, and we can still access the thing that we want to be able to move the business forward. And so in this case, what we did was we said, we're going to take out a 0% interest credit card. That's 0% for 12 months. We're going to pay for this item in full, which actually saved us money because if we went on a payment plan to pay for it, it would have cost us multiple thousands more over that course of the payment period. And so we pay for it up front with the money from the 0% interest credit card, and then we pay that back every single month. So in this case, $10,000 divided by 12 months, I think that's 833 bucks and 33 cents a month. We would pay that back like clockwork, and that becomes part of our expenses in the business. And now we're able to access the thing that's going to help us grow. Ideally, you're investing into something that's going to help you pay that thing back quickly and pay it back even multiple times over. And so we'll use this strategy when, one, we know that we have reserves and backup if this were to fall through, and two, that we're using a 0% interest credit card, know that we can make the monthly payment on that in order to not pay interest on top of principal by the time the term of the loan ends. And so this is how we use 0% interest credit cards to be able to make this happen when we want to get something, especially if we want to pay in full without damaging our cash flow or making it a significant dent into the cash flow. Highly recommend this. And the more that you do this, the more that you're usually able to leverage in terms of the next time you want to apply for a new card. Because we do this, we pay it all back. And the big thing here is this makes the most sense when you obviously have control of your cash flow, understand how to pay back debt and how to leverage debt in a way that makes things easy for you rather than putting yourself in a precarious situation. Just want to throw this out here. It's helped us tremendously as we've wanted to grow. And I think it's still relatively unknown from what we've seen with a lot of business owners that people don't leverage 0% interest credit cards. Instead, get on a credit card that might have 4, 5, 6% interest. And by the course of a year, they're paying ridiculous amounts more than what they would than just the principal by not knowing how to leverage 0% interest credit cards. Hope this helps. If you found this helpful, drop a like on this video, hit subscribe. We'd love to have you learn more tips and tricks that we're using as I'm documenting growing our business.